Hello YouTube, so last weekend I went and saw Paper Towns and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was funny, it had some excellent moments, and I think it was a really faithful adaptation of John Green's book. However, upon entering the movie, I kind of expected to like Quentin and to like Margot, the main characters of the movie, because I liked them when I read the book. I identified strongly with Quentin, and I expected to still identify with Quentin when I went and saw the movie. However, that didn't happen. I didn't really like the character of Quentin until the last third of the movie, and I never really liked Margot. This isn't to say anything about the actors. I thought both Nat Wolff and Kara portrayed their characters excellently. It's just, I didn't really like them. And as I came out of the movie and was discussing with my friend about my feelings, about her feelings about the film, I kind of realized why my perspectives were different from when I read the book and when I went to see the movie. Besides the fact that the book and the movie are different in certain ways, I had read the book in 2011, 2012. And during that time, I was in love with someone. Or I thought I was in love with someone. Basically, like Quentin, I was in love with the idea of someone that I had created in my mind. Looking back on my relationship with that person, who I'm still friends with now, I actually don't know a lot about her. We had discussions, yeah, but I wouldn't say I'm close friends with her. But I had idealized her so much in my mind, and I had fallen in love with this idealization, that when I read Paper Towns, I identified strongly with Quentin. I found a lot of my characteristics in Quentin, and I thought that was pretty cool. But looking back, I missed the whole point of Paper Towns when I read it. I missed the fact that I was Quentin. I was blindly following my idealization of somebody without realizing how much harm I was doing to myself and to that person. And I'm sorry. I'm glad I'm no longer that person, and I'm glad that upon going to see the movie of Paper Towns that I was able to realize it. That I was able to realize why I was Quentin. And it's interesting to me that I didn't see this, even though I read Paper Towns and discussed it with this person that I was in love with. And she said it was one of her favorite books. And I completely missed the point. I missed the point of Paper Towns. And I've only gotten it 3 or 4 years later. And I found myself at the end of the movie when Quentin says, "What a treacherous thing it is to believe a person is more than a person." I found myself thinking back to 16, 17, 18-year-old me, wishing that I could have realized it back then. I would have saved myself a lot of heartache and that person a lot of trouble. And I think it's healthy to understand it, to understand who I was, why I'm no longer that person, and why it's good that I'm no longer that person. And that's kind of the story of Paper Towns. By the end of it, Quentin realizes how selfish he has been. How selfish he has been to Margot, to imagine her as something more than she is, and how selfish he has been to his friends. And he realizes that, and I believe that he goes on to change himself. Now, when I was reading Paper Towns, I also really liked the character of Margot, probably because I was also idealizing a person in much the same way that Quentin idealizes Margot, who we see through his eyes through much of Paper Towns. But upon watching the movie, I realized how selfish Margot actually is. How, yeah, she wants to discover herself, but she ultimately doesn't really care about the life she's leaving behind, or her friends, or ex-friends. She wants to find herself. And although that is a noble goal, I wouldn't agree with the means she goes to do it. And I realized this much more through the movie than I did when reading the book. And I'm not saying that the person that I idealized and fell in love with is at all like Margot. I'm just saying there are many similarities between me at that time and the book of Paper Towns. So what am I saying? I'm saying that the film is excellent. It's a really faithful adaptation of the book, and it gets the point across very clearly that it is a treacherous thing to believe a person is more than a person, and that you do need to imagine people complexly, and that it can be very hard to realize this while you're in that moment, while you're Quentin. And I'm glad that I finally realized it. I'm glad that I saw Paper Towns and that I enjoyed it, that it made me realize a lot of things about myself. So I would definitely recommend to go see Paper Towns, and if you think you might be Quentin, maybe examine yourself a bit more. There's nothing wrong with being that person, just make sure you're aware of the consequences of being Quentin and of coming out of that idealization of people. I hope you enjoy my thoughts about the movie and my thoughts mostly about myself and my own life. If you have any comments or opinions about what I've talked about, please leave them in the comments section below. You'll see me next week. Have an awesome week, and don't forget to be awesome.